My girlfriend called it embarrassing when I spoke multiple languages until clients said, he actually understands us. Now she suddenly values my skills. Bryn and I met at a marketing conference 3 years ago. She was the polished account director with designer heels and a LinkedIn profile that screamed success. I was the junior copywriter who'd grown up bouncing between countries because my dad worked for an NGO. She loved my accent at first, called it exotic. Then we moved in together, and the cracks started showing. The first incident happened at her company holiday party. I was talking with the caterer in Portuguese, helping him find the right serving platters. Bryn pulled me aside, her smile tight. "Can you not?" she whispered. "It's weird when you do that." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Over the next year, it became a pattern. I'd switch languages naturally. Mandarin with the dry cleaner, Spanish with our building super, French with the woman at the bakery. Each time, Bryn would stiffen beside me, then later explain how it made her uncomfortable. "It's showing off," she'd say. "People think you're trying to prove you're better than them." I started keeping quiet, pretending I didn't understand when someone struggled with English, watching people get frustrated because I was too embarrassed to help. Then my company landed a massive international client portfolio. My boss pulled me into her office. "We need someone who can communicate directly with our overseas teams," she said. "Your personnel file mentions you speak 6 languages fluently." I'd never brought it up at work, thought it didn't matter. Within a month, I was leading client calls in 4 different languages. The CEO of our Japanese partner literally cried with relief when I explained a complex campaign strategy in his native tongue. Our French client started specifically requesting me for meetings. My salary doubled. Suddenly, Bryn wanted to hear all about my day. She'd bragged to her friends about my amazing talent. She suggested I put my language skills in my Instagram bio. She even bought me a coffee mug that said polyglot. Last week, her firm lost a major account to a competitor who had better multilingual support. She came home furious. "Why don't you apply to my company?" she asked. "You could save us from disasters like this." I looked at her carefully. At the woman who'd spent 2 years making me feel ashamed of the very thing she now wanted to exploit. "I don't think so," I said. Her face changed. "What do you mean? This could be huge for both of us. We'd be a power couple." "Bryn," I said slowly, "for 2 years you told me speaking other languages was embarrassing. You made me feel like I was showing off for helping people. Now that it's profitable, suddenly it's valuable?" She blinked. "I never said that." I pulled out my phone and played a voice memo I'd recorded after one of her lectures. Her voice filled our kitchen, explaining how my language thing made her look bad at parties. The color drained from her face. "You recorded me?" "I recorded myself processing my feelings," I said. "You just happened to be there." That night, she slept on the couch. The next morning, I got a call from her boss at 7 a.m. "This is Theo," the voice said. "Bryn's mentioned you have extensive language capabilities. I'd like to discuss an opportunity." I hadn't applied. Bryn had submitted my resume without asking. When I confronted her, she smiled like she'd done me a favor. "I'm helping your career," she said. "You should thank me." I checked my email. She'd created a professional profile for me on her company's portal, listing skills, experience, even salary expectations, all without my knowledge. Then I saw the attached internal memo she'd written to her boss. "My boyfriend's language skills could solve our international client problem. I can manage him directly on projects. This would strengthen my position for the senior director role." She wasn't trying to help me. She was trying to use me as a career stepping stone. I called Theo back. "I appreciate the call," I told him, "but I need to be clear about something. I didn't authorize Bryn to submit my information. I'm not interested in leaving my current position." There was a pause. "I see," Theo said carefully. "That's unfortunate. Bryn made it sound like you were eager for the opportunity." "I'm sure she did," I replied, "but she doesn't speak for me. She never asked." Another pause. Longer this time. "Between you and me," Theo said, his voice dropping, "this isn't the first time Bryn's overstepped. We've had complaints from junior team members about her taking credit for their ideas, but she's been here 8 years and her numbers are good, so..." He trailed off and I understood. Bryn had been doing this to other people too. "If you change your mind," Theo continued, "feel free to reach out directly. Your actual qualifications are impressive." Bryn's memo didn't do them justice. After we hung up, I sat at our kitchen table staring at the coffee mug she'd bought me. The word polyglot mocked me in cheerful letters. I'd spent 2 years shrinking myself for her, making myself smaller so she could feel bigger. Bryn came home that evening with takeout and wine, acting like nothing had happened. "So," she said brightly, setting down the bags, "did you talk to Theo? When can you start?" "I'm not taking the job." Her smile froze. "What?" I told him I wasn't interested. The wine bottle hit the counter hard. "Are you insane? Do you know what kind of opportunity this is?" "For you," I said. "It's an opportunity for you. I'm perfectly happy where I am." "Where you are?" She laughed, sharp and mean. "You're a mid-level copywriter, babe. This is a chance to actually be something." "I am something. I'm just not something you can use to climb the corporate ladder." Her face transformed. The mask of supportiveness she'd worn for the past week cracked completely. "You're being selfish," she hissed. "I've supported your career for 3 years. The least you could do is help mine." "Supported?" I stood up. "You spent 2 years telling me to hide who I am. The moment my skills became valuable, you tried to take credit for them. That's not support, Bryn. That's exploitation." "I made you better," she insisted. "You were some nobody when we met. I introduced you to the right people. I taught you how to dress, how to network. You taught me to be ashamed of myself." The words hung in the air between us. Bryn's expression shifted through several emotions before landing on cold calculation. "Fine," she said. "If that's how you feel, maybe you should leave." "Leave? This is my apartment, my name on the lease. I think we need some space to reassess this relationship." I'd been paying half the rent for 2 years, but she was right. Only her name was on the lease. She'd insisted on it when we moved in, claiming it was easier for her credit score. Now I understood why. I'll be out by the end of the week, I said. She blinked, clearly not expecting me to agree so quickly. Wait, I didn't mean, let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. You've made yourself clear. I went to our bedroom and started packing. She followed, her voice rising. You're throwing away 3 years over one argument? This isn't one argument. This is 3 years of arguments I was too afraid to have. I pulled my suitcase from the closet and started filling it with clothes. Where will you even go? She demanded. I'll figure it out. This is ridiculous. You're being dramatic. I kept packing. She grabbed my arm. Stop. Just stop and listen to me. I turned to face her. For the first time in our relationship, I wasn't afraid of disappointing her. I have listened to you. For 2 years. It's the only thing I've done, and I'm done. She let go of my arm, and something like panic flickered across her face. I love you, she said suddenly. I know I haven't been perfect, but I love you. You love what I can do for you. That's not the same thing. I finished packing and called my friend Wei. He had a spare room and said I could crash there as long as I needed. As I loaded my car, Bryn stood in the doorway of her apartment, arms crossed. You'll regret this, she said. You have no idea how hard it is out there without connections. Maybe, I said, but I'd rather be alone than be with someone who makes me feel worthless. I drove to Wei's place in silence, my hands shaking on the wheel. He met me at the door with a beer and didn't ask questions. That night, lying on his couch, I felt lighter than I had in years. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Bryn. I ignored them and went to work. My boss pulled me aside around noon. I got an interesting call this morning, she said. Someone named Theo from Anderson and Wright. Know him? My stomach dropped. What did he want? He asked about your employment status, said he'd heard you might be looking for new opportunities. She studied my face. Want to tell me what's going on? I explained everything. The memo, Bryn's attempt to leverage my skills, how I turned down the opportunity. My boss listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. First of all, I'm sorry your partner put you in that position. Second, I hope you know your value here isn't just your language skills. You're a damn good copywriter. Thank you. That said, she continued, I did some digging after Theo's call. Anderson and Wright is having serious problems with their international accounts. 3 major clients threatened to leave last quarter. Bryn's been managing those accounts. I didn't know that. Theo wanted to know if we'd be willing to let you go on a consulting basis, help them rebuild those relationships. She paused. I told him we'd consider it if you were interested, but only on your terms. You'd work directly with their clients, not through Bryn. I don't know, I said. It feels messy. It's a lot of money, she said, sliding a paper across her desk. That's what they're offering for 3 months of consultation work, and you'd keep your position here. The number made my eyes water. It was more than I made in a year. Think about it, she said. No pressure either way. I spent the next 2 days thinking. Wei told me I should take it. Make them pay you what you're worth, he said, especially after how she treated you. But working with her company, not with her. Around her. There's a difference. He was right. This wasn't about Bryn. It was about the clients who needed someone who could actually communicate with them. I called Theo on Friday. I'll do it, I said. But I have conditions. We met at a coffee shop to discuss terms. Theo was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with tired eyes and an honest handshake. First, I said, I work directly with clients. No intermediaries, especially not Bryn. Agreed. Second, if I'm fixing relationships she damaged, I need full transparency about what went wrong. He winced. That might be uncomfortable. I can't help if I don't know what happened. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were client complaints, email chains, and reports documenting 2 years of miscommunication, missed deadlines, and cultural insensitivity. One email from the CEO of a Japanese manufacturing company read, We have tried repeatedly to explain our concerns in English, but Ms. Chen dismisses them as language barriers. We are considering ending our contract. Another, from a French luxury brand. Your account director suggested we simplify our vision to appeal to American markets. We did not hire you to erase our identity. She told them their concerns were language barriers? I asked. Theo nodded grimly. She doesn't speak any other languages. When clients struggled to communicate, she assumed they were the problem. How has she kept these accounts? She hasn't. That's why I called you. We're about to lose $500,000 in annual revenue if we can't fix this. I read through the rest of the documents. It was worse than I thought. Bryn had been fumbling these relationships for months, blaming the clients for her inability to understand them. When do I start? I asked. Monday. But there's something you should know. He hesitated. Bryn doesn't know about this arrangement yet. We wanted to finalize it with you first. She's going to lose her mind. Probably. But she's also on thin ice. This is her chance to save these accounts, even if she's not the one doing it. Monday morning, I walked into Anderson and Wright's glass tower downtown. The receptionist directed me to a conference room where Theo was waiting with 2 other executives. We'll let Bryn know you're here, Theo said. Fair warning, we told her this morning that we'd brought in a consultant, but not who. Not who. 5 minutes later, Bryn burst through the door. Her eyes landed on me and she stopped cold. What is he doing here? Sit down, Bryn, Theo said calmly. No, I want to know why my ex-boyfriend is in my office. He's the consultant we hired to repair the international accounts. Sit down. She sank into a chair. her face cycling through shock, anger, and calculation. I could see her trying to figure out how to spin this to her advantage. "This is a conflict of interest," she said finally. "Actually," one of the other executives said, "HR has reviewed it. Since you're not in a relationship anymore, there's no conflict. He'll sabotage me. He's here to save accounts you've been mismanaging," Theo said. "Whether that sabotages you depends on how you handle the next 3 months." Bryn's jaw clenched. "Fine. What do you need from me?" "Nothing," I said. "I'll be working directly with the clients. They're my clients. They were your clients. Now they're considering leaving. I'm here to convince them to stay." She looked like she wanted to throw something. Instead, she stood up and walked out, slamming the door behind her. Theo exhaled slowly. That went better than expected. Did it? She didn't cry or threaten to sue. So yes, he introduced me to the team I'd be working with, a project coordinator named Iris, a junior account manager named Dev, and a financial analyst named Patricia. All three looked relieved when they learned I'd be taking over client communications. "Thank God," Iris said. "I've been trying to tell Bryn for months that the clients were unhappy, but she kept saying I was overreacting." "Show me everything," I said. They did. It was worse than the folder had suggested. Bryn had been actively ignoring client feedback, missing calls, and sending generic responses to specific concerns. She'd once told the Japanese CEO that Americans don't really care about all that Boeing stuff when he'd tried to explain important cultural protocols. My first call was with that same CEO, Tanaka-san. I'd prepped for hours, reviewing Japanese business etiquette and the company's specific concerns. When he answered the video call, I greeted him in formal Japanese and bowed appropriately. His expression shifted from guarded to surprised. "You speak Japanese?" he asked in Japanese. "Yes, sir. I apologize for the communication difficulties you've experienced. I'm here to ensure your concerns are heard and addressed properly." We talked for an hour. He explained, in detail, the cultural misunderstandings and missed opportunities that had been plaguing the partnership. By the end of the call, he was smiling. "This is the first real conversation I've had with your company in 6 months," he said. "Perhaps we should not cancel the contract just yet." The French luxury brand meeting went similarly. When I greeted the creative director in fluent French and demonstrated that I understood the nuances of their brand vision, she actually laughed with relief. "Finally," she said, "someone who understands that luxury is not about simplification." Within 2 weeks, I'd reconnected with all 5 at-risk clients. All 5 agreed to continue their contracts. Bryn watched from the sidelines, growing more resentful by the day. She'd started telling people I'd stolen her accounts, that I'd manipulated the situation. Then she made a mistake. She sent an email to the entire account team, copying senior leadership, claiming that I was sabotaging her relationships with clients by confusing them with unnecessary foreign languages. Theo called me into his office with a printout of the email. "She's saying you're making things worse," he said. "The clients would disagree. I know that. But she's claiming you're going behind her back, contradicting her strategies." "I am contradicting her strategies. Her strategies were losing you $500,000. He smiled grimly. "Can you document that?" "Already done." I pulled out my laptop and showed him my detailed reports from each client meeting. I'd been documenting everything, their concerns, their feedback, the specific moments when they expressed relief at finally being understood. I'd also recorded something else. After each successful call, the clients had sent thank you emails, unsolicited praise about how refreshing it was to work with someone who respected their language and culture. Theo read through them, his expression growing darker with each one. "She's been blaming the clients this whole time," he muttered, making it seem like they were the problem, because she couldn't admit she was in over her head. He closed my laptop and leaned back. "We're going to have to let her go. That's your decision, not mine." "I know, but I want you to know it's not because of anything you did. It's because of what she didn't do for 2 years. Bryn was terminated the following Friday. I wasn't in the office when it happened, but Iris texted me about it. She screamed that you'd orchestrated the whole thing. HR had to escort her out. I felt bad for about 30 seconds. Then I remembered the voice memo on my phone, the one where she called my language skills embarrassing. That night, Wei and I celebrated with Thai food and too much beer. "You know what the best part is?" he said. "You didn't even try to get her fired. You just did your job well." "That's not entirely true," I admitted. "I documented everything very carefully. That's still just doing your job well." He was right. I hadn't sabotaged Bryn. I'd simply let her sabotage herself. The 3-month consultation turned into a permanent position. Anderson and Wright offered me a senior role managing all international accounts. The pay was triple what I'd been making. I took it. 6 months later, I was leading a team of multilingual account managers. We'd expanded the international division and brought in 4 new clients. One afternoon, my assistant told me someone named Bryn was in the lobby asking to see me. I almost said no, but curiosity won. She looked different, less polished. Her designer clothes had been replaced with something more practical. She'd cut her hair shorter. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said immediately. "Then why are you here?" I wanted to apologize. I waited. I was wrong. About everything. She took a breath. "I was threatened by you, by how smart you are, how talented. So I tried to make you smaller. And when that didn't work, I tried to use you. I know. I've been in therapy, trying to figure out why I do this. Why I need to tear people down to feel good about myself." She looked at her hands. "I've hurt a lot of people. Not just you. What do you want from me, Bryn?" "Nothing. I just wanted you to know I understand what I did, and I'm sorry." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation, but she just looked tired and sad. "I appreciate the apology," I said. "I hope therapy helps." "Me too." She stood to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you, what you've built here. You deserve it." After she left, I sat in my office for a long time, processing. I didn't forgive her, not entirely, but I felt the last bit of anger drain away. She'd made me small, but only because I'd let her. That evening, I had dinner with my parents. They'd flown in from Thailand, where my dad was working on a new project. "Your mother and I are so proud of you," my dad said in Thai. "Thank you," I replied in the same language. My mother smiled and switched to French. "You know, when you were little, people told us raising you in so many countries would confuse you." "I remember," I said, answering in French. My dad laughed and switched to Spanish. "And now look at you, using all those languages to build a career. More than that," my mother added in Portuguese, "you're helping people understand each other. That's what language is really for." The waiter approached our table, and I realized he'd been hovering nearby, confused about which language to use. "We're multilingual," I explained in English, grinning. "Sorry for the confusion. We'll order in English." He laughed, relieved, and I realized something. I wasn't embarrassed anymore, not even a little bit. Being multilingual wasn't something to hide or minimize. It wasn't a party trick or a tool for others to exploit. It was simply who I was, and that was enough. 3 years later, I'm still at Anderson & Wright. I've built the international division into one of the most profitable parts of the company. We now have team members who speak 23 languages between them. I met someone new. Her name is Yuki, and she speaks 4 languages. When we're out together and I switch languages naturally, she doesn't flinch. She joins in. Sometimes we have entire conversations where we switch languages mid-sentence just for fun. Last month, Yuki and I were at a restaurant when I overheard the couple next to us struggling to communicate with their waiter. The husband spoke only Mandarin, the wife only Korean, and the waiter only English. I caught Yuki's eye. She nodded. We helped translate, moving smoothly between all 3 languages until everyone understood each other. The relief on their faces was immediate. As we left, the wife grabbed my hand. "Thank you," she said in Korean. "You have a gift." "We both do," I said, gesturing to Yuki. In the car, Yuki took my hand. "That never gets old, does it?" she asked in Japanese. "What? Helping people understand each other?" "No," I agreed in Japanese. "It never does." That night, I got an email from Theo. Anderson & Wright had been acquired by a global firm, and they wanted me to head their international operations across 5 continents. The position would require extensive travel, living in different countries for months at a time, using every language I knew and probably learning new ones. It was everything my parents had prepared me for, whether they'd meant to or not. I called my dad. "So," I said when he answered, "how would you feel about your son following in your footsteps, living all over the world?" He laughed, and I could hear my mother in the background asking what was happening. "I'd feel," he said slowly, "like we did something right." I took the job. Yuki came with me. She'd been offered a position with an international nonprofit that aligned perfectly with the travel schedule. We started in Tokyo, then moved to Paris, then Sao Paulo. In each city, I rebuilt relationships, fixed communication breakdowns, and watched as companies that had struggled to work together found common ground. Sometimes I thought about Bryn, about how she'd wanted me to be smaller so she could feel bigger. But then, I'd stand in a boardroom, switching effortlessly between languages as executives from 4 different countries finally understood each other's visions, and I'd realize something. I wasn't small. I never had been. I'd just been with someone who needed me to believe I was. Now, I was exactly where I was supposed to be, speaking every language I knew, taking up all the space I deserved, and nobody, not Bryn, not anyone, could make me feel embarrassed about that ever again. Last week, I was giving a keynote speech at an international business conference. The topic was cross-cultural communication in global partnerships. Halfway through my presentation, I noticed someone in the back row. Even from the stage, I recognized her. Bryn. She wasn't heckling or causing trouble. She was just sitting there, taking notes like everyone else. After my speech, she approached me during the networking hour. "I paid to be here," she said before I could ask. "I'm working for a small startup now. We're expanding internationally and She paused. "I'm trying to learn from my mistakes." "That's good. I'm taking Mandarin classes," she added. "It's humbling, being the one who doesn't understand." I nodded. "It is. Your speech was good, really good. The part about how language barriers are usually respect barriers, that hit hard. Thank you." We stood in awkward silence for a moment. "I should go," she said finally, "but I wanted you to know I heard you, back then and now." She walked away, and I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no lingering hurt, just the quiet knowledge that I'd moved on completely. That night, Yuki and I had dinner on a rooftop overlooking the city. "Was that your ex at the conference?" she asked in Korean. "Yeah," I replied in the same language. "How did that feel?" I thought about it. Like seeing a stranger who happened to know my past. She smiled and switched to French. "That's how you know you're truly over someone." "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise," she said, switching to English with a grin. "You just weren't paying attention." We laughed, and I realized something else. With Yuki, I never had to choose which version of myself to be. I could be all of them at once. The person who grew up everywhere and nowhere. The person who saw language not as a barrier but as a bridge. The person who refused to be small anymore. 2 years later, I'm writing this from our apartment in Singapore. Yuki is in the kitchen making dinner and singing in Japanese. I'm finishing a report on our latest international expansion. My phone buzzes with a message from my dad. He's sending photos from Nairobi, where he and my mother are working on a new education initiative. "Your mother says to tell you that the principal here speaks 6 languages, he writes in Swahili. She reminded him that her son speaks 8. She's very proud. I smile and respond in Swahili. "Tell her I'm working on number 9, because that's the thing about being multilingual. You never stop learning. Never stop building bridges between people who thought they could never understand each other." And you never, ever let anyone make you feel like that's something to hide. Bryn wanted me to be embarrassed about speaking multiple languages, to see it as showing off rather than sharing, to use it only when it benefited her. But language was never about her. It was never about making anyone feel inferior or proving I was better. It was about connection, understanding, building something bigger than myself. Now, when I walk into a room and someone is struggling to be heard in their second or third language, I don't hesitate. I don't wait for permission. I don't wonder if it's showing off. I just help. Because that's what language is for. And anyone who can't understand that doesn't deserve to be part of my story. I'm done being embarrassed, done apologizing for taking up space, done shrinking myself for people who are threatened by my growth. I'm exactly who I was meant to be. And I'm finally comfortable speaking every language that comes naturally, including the one that says, I'm enough just as I am.